There's something about you they can't explain, something that makes them shift uncomfortably in their seat when you walk into the room. They smile at you, but deep inside they feel the storm you carry in your silence. You don't speak loudly, but your energy shouts in places your voice never reaches. It's not arrogance. It's the weight of a soul that has battled demons in the dark and emerged without needing applause. You've been through fires that would have destroyed others. You've been doubted, counted out, and underestimated by those who couldn't see past your calm. But your presence carries truth. It carries scars stitched with wisdom and eyes that have seen too much to be fooled again. You're not just a person. They sense your intensity, your resilience, your refusal to shrink just to make them comfortable. They fear your aura because it reflects what they try to hide. Your discipline calls out their laziness. Your peace disrupts their chaos. Your hunger exposes their comfort. You walk in purpose, and those without it don't know what to do when you're around. It's not that you intimidate them by force. It's that your spirit forces them to meet a version of themselves they've been running from. You were not made to blend in. You were made to move things, to challenge atmospheres, to stir still waters, to ignite the fire in those still waiting to remember who they are. They feel that. And that's why they're scared that their silence speaks louder than their noise. Your presence reminds them of their potential, and that terrifies them. They fear what they can't control. And you can't be controlled. You carry the energy of someone who survived what they couldn't. Your glow exposes their shadows, and they're not ready to face them. There's something about your silence that unsettles the noise around you. You don't have to raise your voice to command attention, because the power you carry isn't in what you say. It's in what you've survived, what you've conquered in the quiet. And while others rely on their volume, their presence is only as loud as the room allows. But you carry storms inside that have long since made peace with the chaos. You are calm, not because life has been easy, but because you've learned to be still in the middle of the fire. Your silence isn't weakness, it's mastery. People look at you and feel something they can't describe. It's not intimidation in the traditional sense. It's a deep discomfort that rises from their own unresolved truths. Because when you walk into a room, you bring an energy that can't be faked. You bring lessons that were never spoken, only earned. And in your silence, they hear echoes of everything they've ignored in themselves. It's not what you say that shakes them. It's what they feel when they stand next to you. You've trained yourself to be unshaken. You don't react. You observe. You observe. You don't rush to prove. You move with certainty. You understand that power doesn't need to announce itself. The ones who truly carry greatness rarely have to scream for it. You've sat in rooms where no one understood your worth, and you left without needing validation. Because you weren't there to be seen. You were there to understand the game. That level of self-possession, that kind of mental discipline, it speaks louder than any words ever could. And people feel it, even if they don't know how or why. They get nervous, shift their energy, overcompensate with fake confidence or uncomfortable jokes. They talk more when you're around, not because you made them nervous, but because your calm exposes their anxiety. They sense you're not here to play their games. You're not chasing approval, not following the crowd, not trying to impress anyone. You're grounded, and that kind of grounded presence can't be ignored. There's a certain kind of silence that's earned after years of noise. After battles no one saw, after nights you had to convince yourself to keep going, after decisions that felt like tearing yourself in half just to stay true to your purpose. That silence becomes your strength. It becomes your signature. You no longer need to prove what you know, because you've been tested in ways that don't require an audience. And it's that silence that scares them, because it makes them look inward. It makes them question their motives, their fears, their comfort zones. You don't ask them to change, but something in your stillness makes them realize they're not walking with the same conviction. You're a reminder that greatness doesn't have to perform. It simply is. And those who rely on performance for value don't know what to do when faced with someone who doesn't need the stage. You've learned how to move in silence, how to protect your energy, how to carry your past not as a burden but as armor. You don't need loud opinions or constant validation. You're aware of who you are, and that awareness radiates. It changes the temperature in the room, not because you demand it, but because energy recognizes energy, and yours is the kind that's forged, not gifted, built in hardship, sharpened by experience, sustained by vision. You're not here to be liked. You're not here to fit in. You're here to build, to rise, to grow. And every step you take in silence echoes in the minds of those who pretend they're not watching. But they see you, they feel you, they study you from a distance. Because deep down they wish they had what you carry. Not the material things, but the spirit, the discipline, the courage, the calm, the unshakable belief in yourself that doesn't need noise to be real. There's a reason your presence causes a shift in the atmosphere. It's because you remind people of everything they could be, but haven't yet become. You walk in with purpose, not because you need to prove anything, but because you've earned that purpose through pain, failure, growth, and the kind of internal struggle most people run from. You are not just a person. They feel something from you that can't be explained in words. You carry the vibration of someone who has faced their own reflection without flinching, someone who has done the uncomfortable work of becoming. And when you stand in front of people who haven't yet had the courage to meet themselves, they become uneasy. They sense it. It's not something you broadcast. You don't talk about your progress or your growth. You don't announce your pain or seek sympathy for your scars. But it's all there in how you move, how you speak, how you stay centered when everything else feels like noise. You've learned to listen to your own voice over the crowd. You've chosen the harder path, the lonelier road, because you refused to settle for a version of yourself that felt fake. And now, even in silence, you remind others of their own choices. You force them to reflect on the standards they've lowered and the dreams they've abandoned just to feel safe. You're a mirror they didn't ask to look into. Your discipline confronts their excuses. Your focus exposes their distractions. Your consistency highlights their inconsistency. You make them feel what they've tried to numb with convenience, approval, and distraction. You're not trying to compete with them. You've already separated yourself. Not because you think you're better, but because you refuse to be average, and those who've settled for comfort always feel threatened by those who keep evolving. You remind them that they had the same potential, that they once had fire, once dreamed boldly, once spoke with conviction. But they stopped. They dimmed themselves. They chose comfort. And now they feel the weight of that decision every time they see someone who didn't. You didn't take shortcuts. You stayed late, worked harder, stayed silent when others needed attention, kept growing when no one was watching. Through pain, through rejection, through isolation, you've learned how to be alone without being lonely. You found peace in your own company, purpose in your own presence. That kind of self-ownership terrifies people who still live for validation. They want to understand you so they can control you. But you keep evolving. You keep growing in directions they can't predict. You don't make sense to them anymore because you've stopped living by their expectations. You no longer perform. You no longer over-explain. You no longer negotiate your worth. That's what they hate. Not you, but the fact that they can't access you in the ways they used to. You've created boundaries so strong that only truth can pass through. And most people are too attached to lies to cross that threshold. Control is a game of fear. And you don't move from fear anymore. You move from alignment, from intuition, from clarity. You've stripped away the noise, and in that silence, you've found your true power. That makes you unpredictable. That makes you dangerous, not in a destructive way, but in a liberating one. You set a new standard just by being who you are. You awaken something in people they tried to forget. You are proof that control is an illusion and freedom is a choice. You've stopped reacting. You've stopped justifying. You've stopped trying to be understood by people who aren't ready to meet you where you are. And that non-compliance is power. That refusal to participate in their drama, their manipulation, their small games. That's what they can't stand. Because if they can't control you, they can't define you. They can't define you. And if they can't define you, they feel irrelevant in your presence. You become a reminder of everything they don't control about themselves. They try to label you so they can feel safe. They try to project their insecurities on you so they don't have to face them. But it doesn't work anymore. You've seen through it. You felt the weight of others' expectations and decided it wasn't yours to carry. You've broken every chain they tried to wrap around your identity, and now you walk in your own name, on your own path, without fear. That energy, that clarity, it disrupts everything false around you. You're not trying to be above anyone. You're simply not beneath yourself anymore. You've stepped into your power in a way that doesn't ask for permission, doesn't wait for applause. You are your own source now. And that truth cannot be manipulated, bought, or broken. It lives in your eyes, in your posture, in your choices. You carry it everywhere, and people feel it long before you speak, Dutch, and there's a strength in you they'll never understand because they never had to face what you've endured. You've walked through moments that should have broken you, but somehow you rose, piece by piece, from places that others would have surrendered to. You didn't just survive what they couldn't. You transformed because of it. You made pain your teacher, not your prison. And now, you move differently. You speak with the calm of someone who has already seen the worst and decided to keep walking. That unsettles them. They don't see the nights you cried in silence, the mornings you forced yourself out of bed with nothing but the weight of responsibility and the whisper of hope. They don't know how many times you questioned everything, your worth, your purpose, your place in this world, but still chose to keep going. They only see who you are now, focused, composed, unshaken. And because they didn't witness your war, they can't understand your peace. You wear your scars like armor now, not shame. They are part of you, reminders of battles fought without recognition or applause. You carry pain in your memory, not to stay in it, but to remind yourself who you became through it. What? Every time someone underestimates you, every time someone tries to define you through a shallow lens, you smile, not out of pride, but because they have no idea who they're speaking to. They're talking to someone who rose from a place they'll never reach because they've never had to dig that deep. You've trained yourself to stay calm in storms. You've learned to trust your silence more than the noise around you. You've built a kind of inner power that doesn't need defending. And that unnerves people who live on the surface. You've been so far down into your own soul that you're no longer afraid of darkness. You faced it, you embraced it, and you found your light in the middle of it. That kind of resilience can't be copied or bought. It's earned in solitude. It's forged in fire. When you speak now, there's weight behind your words, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because everything you say has been filtered through truth. You don't waste time with pretenses. You've seen how short life is, how quickly it changes, how little control we truly have over anything but our own reactions. That clarity changed you. It shaped your perspective. It sharpened your intuition. It made you dangerous, not to others, but to limitations. You no longer fear being alone because you found peace in your own presence. That makes you powerful in a way that unsettles people who need constant company, constant validation, constant distractions to feel alive. You've tasted silence and found nourishment in it. You've looked in the mirror and refused to look away. And now, you walk with a different kind of energy. You don't chase people. You don't explain your worth. You don't beg to be understood. You know who you are, and that terrifies those who don't. People don't understand the weight you carry in your smile. They don't see the discipline behind your habits, the heartbreak behind your wisdom, the pain behind your calm. But they feel it. They feel the strength that doesn't need to be spoken. They feel the courage that doesn't need a spotlight. You move like someone who's already lost and rebuilt, and that makes you unpredictable, unstoppable, unshakable. You carry the essence of someone who had to learn to be their own rescue. You stopped waiting for someone to save you. You became the person you needed. You built yourself in the shadows. And you rose without cheering crowds, without soft landings, without handouts. And now that you've arrived, they can't grasp how. They can't replicate what you've done because they never had to bleed for their transformation. You did. And it shows in everything about you. You walk in rooms differently now. You observe more than you speak. You study energy. You feel intentions. You trust your gut. You know how quickly masks fall and how easily people bend when they haven't been tested. You no longer need to impress people who haven't even impressed themselves. You've learned how to protect your peace, how to preserve your energy, how to honor your own growth. That wisdom, that depth, it's intimidating. Not because you intend it to be, but because it reveals what others are still hiding from. You've become a walking reminder that it's possible to go through hell and still rise with grace, that it's possible to feel pain without becoming bitter, that it's possible to be broken and still choose to love, to build, to lead, to shine. And that energy, the energy of someone who survived what others couldn't, that's what they fear the most. You don't need to say a word for your energy to make an impact. You walk into a space, and without trying, you change the atmosphere. There's a light around you that doesn't come from arrogance or performance. It comes from the truth you've embraced. It comes from the inner work you've done, the healing you've committed to, a pain you've transformed. And because of that, you carry something that others don't. You don't just enter a room, you reveal it. You expose what's hidden beneath the surface. You bring with you a vibration that makes people feel seen in a way they're not ready for. And that's why your glow doesn't always receive applause. It often receives discomfort. Your glow isn't about perfection. It's about honesty. It's about the fact that you faced your flaws, owned your scars, and learned how to love yourself through it all. That type of self-love can't be faked. It's not filtered through trends or appearances. It's deep, silent, and rooted. It doesn't try to outshine others. It simply can't be dimmed. And when you carry that kind of energy, you become a mirror. Not the flattering kind, but the kind that reflects what people have been avoiding within themselves. Your growth makes them confront their stagnation. Your healing highlights their avoidance. Your confidence, are not inherited, shines a light on the parts of themselves they haven't yet dared to face. You didn't wake up with this glow. You built it, day by day, in quiet moments, in the middle of chaos, in the face of rejection, through every failure. You chose to keep going. You chose to keep believing. You chose to heal even when staying broken would have been easier. You didn't ask for pity. You didn't ask for attention. You disappeared when you needed to, and you returned when your soul had been rebuilt. And now that you've stepped back into the world with this energy, people can't ignore it, even if they pretend to. Your glow isn't just seen, it's felt. It's the way you look people in the eyes without fear. It's the way you speak with intention and not just noise. It's the way you listen deeply, like someone who has learned how to hear themselves first. You don't speak just to be heard. You speak to be true. That kind of presence is rare, and rare things often feel uncomfortable to those used to the shallow and superficial. They're used to masks and performances. You bring authenticity, and that can feel like a spotlight to someone still hiding behind roles. You don't dim your light to make others comfortable, and that alone causes friction. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you've learned that shrinking doesn't serve anyone, not you and not the world. You've done the work to shine like this. You've faced your shadows, and in doing so, you've earned the right to walk in your light. People who haven't done the same often mistake that light for ego. They assume you think you're better, but they don't realize you've had to fight to believe you were ever enough. You glow because you've outgrown your past. You've stopped watering dead things. You've left behind people, habits, thoughts, and environments that tried to suffocate your soul. That courage to leave, that courage to grow, it radiates from you now. It's not loud, it's not flashy, but it's undeniable. You are living proof that transformation is possible, that healing is real, that growth is worth the pain. And while some will be inspired by your energy, others will be disturbed by it. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because they haven't yet given themselves permission to shine. Your light creates contrast. It makes the fake look faker. It makes the shallow feel shallower. It brings truth into rooms that are used to lies, and not everyone is ready for that. Not everyone is ready to face what your energy reveals. You're not just walking in your glow, you're walking in your truth. And truth always disrupts illusion. People can't control what they can't define, and they can't predict what they can't understand. So they distance themselves, or they talk behind your back, or they act like your growth is too much. But what they're really saying is that your presence exposes their absence. Your courage reminds them of their fear. Your progress brings their procrastination into view. You are living in alignment now. You're choosing yourself in rooms where you used to beg for permission. You're trusting your path, even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else. That glow comes from faith, not perfection. From peace, not applause. From alignment, not validation. It is the product of your journey, not just where you've arrived, but who you became on the way. And that glow, that unshakable energy you now carry, makes it impossible for others to pretend they don't see what's possible for them too.